Welcome to the AGEish podcast. Authentically and unapologetically keeping it real. Discussing all things middle-age-ish. A time when metabolism slows and confidence grows. Join fashion and fitness entrepreneur Ashley Badowski, former Celtic woman and founder of the Lisa Kelly Voice Academy, Lisa Kelly, licensed psychologist and mental health expert, Dr. Pam Wright, and highly sought-after cosmetic injector and board-certified nurse practitioner, Trisha Kennedy Roman. Join your hosts on the journey of middle-age-ish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AGEish podcast. I'm Trisha Kennedy Roman, and I'm joined here today with my co-hosts, Ashley Badowski, Lisa Kelly, and Dr. Pam Wright. And we are joined today by Steve Gamlin. We're excited to have him here. He has a background in radio as an MC and stand-up comedy, and he is known as the Motivational Firewood Guy. So welcome to the podcast, Steve. We're so glad to have you, and we are really anxious to hear about where we got the name, the Motivational Firewood. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to our conversation. And that actually came out very early in my speaking career, right around 2005. And at the suggestion of a friend, I attended a National Speakers Association of New England meeting. And I walked in so intimidated because everybody has their lanyards and their name badges and they're all dressed up nice. And somebody points me to the table with the "Hi, my name is" sticker and a Sharpie, and I just kind of wrote my name on there. And one of the gentlemen, his name was Don, and he said, "So Steve, what brings you here today?" I said, "Well, I'm becoming a speaker." And he said, "Well, what sets you apart from other speakers?" And I said, "I want to help people." He said, "Steve, we all want to help people. What makes you different and unique?" And for about 3 to 5 minutes, I sputtered sentence fragments that meant absolutely nothing because I was just cornered like a deer in the headlights. And finally, I just said, "You know what, Don? If people are coming to hear me speak, it means they have a tiny spark of something in their heart they want to create in their life. And if I share a story, a tip, a tactic, a strategy, a lesson, something that inspires them to take action and then create a win," I said, "it's kind of like I gave them a piece of motivational firewood." Snapped his fingers and he goes, "That is really unique." He says, "It's really cool. And you might want to trademark that. That's really interesting. But you know what I like best is the way your face just lit up when you said that." He said, "Young man, you hang on to that and you take that and run with it." And I've owned the trademark ever since.
Oh, I think that's amazing. Yeah. I love it. I knew it had to be like a really good story.
Right.
Had to.
So how did you go from moving to that part of motivational speaking from being on when you were in radio? Did it have to do anything with that, or how did you make that transition?
Do you remember the old Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons back in the day? I've got a few birthday cats on you, but if you recall them. Basically, in the early 2000s, I pulled the Wile E. Coyote Acme rocket roller skates right off the cliff to the bottom of the canyon. I quit my radio career. My first marriage fell apart. And at age 35, I was $62,000 in debt and had to crawl back home and live with family. And I pretty much blew up my entire life and just sat in the ashes wondering what the heck I was going to do. And a hot August afternoon in 2003, I had $3 in my pocket on a Friday. And I decided to take out my frustrations on a bucket of golf balls. And I was underneath these big, tall, steel-towered power lines. And hot August afternoon in New England, a thunderstorm came through. And everybody but me ran from the store because I was just there taking out my frustrations, mad at myself. And in a thunderstorm, barefoot in the wet grass because I took my shoes off, holding the club up, I just looked up and said, "Go ahead, I dare you." And I hit my bucket and the buckets of 2 other guys who had run from the store. And at the end of the hour, I couldn't lift my arms. I got back to my car. And when I opened the door, the rain stopped and the sun came back out. And the next day, I had a conversation with my brand new life coach. And he said, "How was your week?" And as funny as I could make it sound, it was pathetic but funny. I told him about that hour. And when he stopped laughing, he asked, "Have you ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian? I think you'd be really good at both." And what he did not know was that when I was 11 years old, I wanted to be a radio DJ, an author of my own books, a stand-up comedian, and a teacher of people, but not in a classroom. And within 2 weeks, I went to my first comedy class. And a week after that, my first Toastmasters meeting. And here we are.
That's so cool. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it just proves that you just never give up on yourself. You find the gifts where they come.
Follow the dream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you go back into radio or were you just done at that point?
I was done.
Yeah.
During my 10 years, I worked about 15 years worth of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And twice the radio stations I worked for got sold. And it got to the point where every time I heard "we're getting sold," it meant you're getting fired.
Yeah.
Because it happened
Mm-hmm.
twice. And I heard the rumblings a third time right around the early 2000s. And I just pulled the ripcord and failed. Not my most well thought out decision ever, but
I think when you're young enough, though, you think you like in some ways, I know you hit rock bottom, but I think when you're young enough, you kind of have that invincible quality about yourself. You're like, it doesn't matter. I can start over. I can do this.
Yeah.
If you have any sort of ambition, I think that's part of being young and going forward and achieving what you want to achieve.
We're very resilient creatures. And I just live by the credo, that which doesn't kill me gives me a great story to share on stage. I've jumped out of 3 perfectly good airplanes with 2.5 perfectly packed parachutes. I get stories everywhere.
My goodness. Yeah, that's something. Pam is the only one of our group that is brave enough to.
Yeah, she's the only one out of this group who will ever do that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Did you do that just for the thrill, or is that something that helped you move to something else? Was that conquering a fear? What made you decide to jump out of a perfectly good plane?
I got to do it for free. Back in my radio days, I'd gotten 2 tandem jumps. And then in the early 2000s, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, Steve, do you still DJ?" Because I had a DJ business on the side. And I said, "Yeah, I DJ." And they said, "Oh, we're having this big bonfire and this big party. And can you come out and play some music?" And I said, "Okay, what's your budget?" And they go, "Well, we don't have any money." I said, "Give me 2 solo jumps," because I wanted to give one to my coach. And they said, "Deal." We played music for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. The neighbors called the cops. They shut us down, but I still got my jumps.
So it was a win.
Yes.
Trade of
Like I was too wide.
It was a big win.
It was.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a question for you because I feel like public speaking is probably the scariest thing that people do. But I would think being a comedian in front of people, because the audience is either going to be great or you're going to tell the same jokes and the next audience is going to, bomb. How do you deal with that? And how do you get the courage to go on each night, I guess, and do that?
I am by nature an introvert, and I'm actually a relatively shy person. And it would have been easier had I not been mortally embarrassed in the 7th grade spelling bee when I was 13, because that killed my confidence for about 12 to 15 years. So for people that say, "Oh, Steve, it's so easy for you to get up there. Oh, Steve, do you ever get nervous?" And I told somebody this morning who asked me, "Don't you ever get nervous?" I said, "Well, I only get nervous every time." The only part I really worry about is about the first 60 to 90 seconds. I just want to connect.
Yeah.
You get that first laugh and then we're off and rolling. So it's not that I'm nervous about the whole thing. It's just connecting very quickly with the audience. And once I get that first laugh, it's on. And I love what I get to do for a living. I truly love it. And I did stand up for about 7 years. I haven't done it now in about 12 or 13 years.
Wow.
But I may go back to that day. It just, I fell in love and we wanted to spend more time together. And it was just getting tough to drive an hour and a half to do 5 minutes of comedy for free.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that connection is really important. And very few people ever say that about performing and being on stage. But I assume it's the same then with motivational speaking as well, because you have to, in a sense, get people to trust you, because once you have them in the palm of your hand, trusting you. And I coach singing now, but I was a singer, but I'm always saying to the kids, like those first few minutes that you get out on the stage, you have to fool them into believing you're better than you are. And that's like making a connection. If you can make that connection with them, the audience will forgive anything because they feel like they're the only person in the room. And I think that's really important. I think people sometimes, especially with, musicians mainly, because sometimes I think people go out on stage for themselves as opposed to the connection that they're trying to make. And I think that's really a really important point.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in my industry who have egos bigger than their trucks. And it's all about them. And I've tried to never, ever be one of those people. It doesn't matter to me. I had a speaker kind of get in my face one time and said, "Well, I've got more than 500 standing ovations. I'm better than you." And I just looked him in the eye and said, "I got one. And I cheated to get it to win a $5 bet so a friend would buy me a drink after the event." What you got to do is get people to stand up right near the part where you say, "Thank you, good night, enjoy the rest of the event."
Okay.
Awesome.
And they start clapping. And, to me, it's that first set of eyeballs when you gesture and you pause and say something, lock right on one person, and they can't help but nod. And in my head, I'm going, "Okay, there's one. Let's make another connection."
Absolutely. And because that instills the confidence in you then to continue on as well. Because you walk out. I mean, I assume you're the same as I am when I walk out, because I'm nervous every time I go out. And we were on tour for a really long time. So, not that it never became monotonous because every audience was a little bit different, but you go out on the stage and you'd always have the first, the super fans who were there and would love and be so excited. But our aim was to get the sulky girl in the front row. So it just became a competition and you try extra hard.
You got to do whatever it takes.
And find out that you're actually connected with them. It's such a reward. And I still remember, I'll never, ever forget this. This was around 2008. It was a small comedy club near where I grew up. And I was the opening act. And one thing I used to love to do is go around and just thank everybody afterward for coming to the show and hope they enjoyed it. Hope they had a good night. Hope they had a great experience. And I was the only one who was doing that. I don't know why, but I love to do it. And two women came over and they pointed across the room. They said, "You see that woman over there going to get her coat?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, that's our best friend. And this is the first time she's come out in 6 months. Something very bad had happened in her life and she had a major loss in her life." And they said, "Tonight was the first time we heard her laugh in 6 months and you made her laugh." And I'll never forget that. It's not about standing ovations or who's the best. It's connections.
Yeah. And I do think that laughter is medicine.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I don't think that there's been any part of my life, whether it's the peaks, the valleys or whatever, but if you can infuse laughter, it is like nature's natural wonder, at least for me. I think it's amazing because again, I go back to laughter cures everything.
Absolutely.
You can get your point across, as you know, but I think it's just the universal language.
And it breaks barriers with people. It makes people feel comfortable. If you can laugh at yourself or even at somebody else and feel okay about doing it, it really does break barriers. I love to see that when you hear motivational speakers or even pastors or anybody who has to stand up, because we all know if you're just lecturing people.
But you're still right. Like when you infuse laughter in any type of message, whether it's church or motivational speaking or whatever, for some reason, it keeps people's interest and it seems to resonate when you could say the exact same things, but in this is what I want you to do. Now follow 1, 2, 3 and report back to me.
I think the funniest things that I've seen are the ones that would be too embarrassing for you to actually say out loud, but the other person does and you can relate to it. Yeah. I think that's probably the funniest.
Yeah.
So just in looking at kind of looking at your background, reading some things on you, obviously I know that you really like to motivate people and to have, something that they're reaching for in life. But one thing I read I'm curious about is you created a t-shirt that said, "Friends don't let friends attend vision board parties." So tell us about that one.
I need that t-shirt.
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of them. I had one hanging in here and finally had to go into the laundry, but it's usually here in the studio. My main topic is visualization and vision boards and doing my best to teach the world that they are not arts and crafts projects. And every year, right around New Year's, you see all these things pop up. Hey, we're having a vision board party. We're going to have wine, cheese, crackers, scissors, glitter, glue stick, poster boards, magazines. Come on, make your vision board and create success in your life. To me, like you've got New Year's resolutions, which are small, and then you've got goals, which are bigger. Vision board parties to me are small. They're not worthless. They're not dumb. They're small because they barely scratch the surface of what visualization is all about. So I was talking to a friend one day and she said something. She goes, "Oh, you're going to love this. I saw another ad for a vision board event, vision board party with wine, cheese and all that." She goes, $25 and you're going to create success. And I just kind of snapped and I said, "Friends don't let friends go to vision board parties." And she started laughing. So I said, let me write that down. And within 3 days, I had a shirt made and on the back it says that. And it's just a warning to people if you're going to do visualization or create a vision board, understand it's not a surface level thing. We are talking about going so deep into not just what you want to get, but who you want to become. And it's not just material things because so many people send me pictures. "Steve, you're going to be so proud I made a vision board." I'll say, "Send me a picture." And what is it? It's what I call the vision board starter kit. Lamborghini, yacht, mansion, private jet, helicopter, big rockin' gold watch, and a big stack of gold bars and pallets of cash in their basement. Okay, there's nothing wrong with any of these things, but who do you need to become to make all this happen? Who do you need to be? And besides, there are 8 major areas of your life: your physical health, your emotional well-being, your closest relationships, your core values that guide everything you do, your faith and spirituality, your connection to the world in real ways, your work, and your money. where's the rest of it? And they go, ooh. So that's my challenge with vision board parties. Again, they're not worthless and they're not stupid. They're not dumb, but I don't believe they go deeply enough. It's like planting seeds in very, very shallow soil. If it even rains a little bit, they're going to wash away and be gone.
I don't think I've ever been invited to a vision board
I
party.
didn't either.
I mean, I've seen it for like home decor,
Mhm.
like if you're working,
Wow.
but I've never, I haven't.
I use them I'm a psychologist. I use them with clients, but it's more about, one certain goal. And so if you want to, work on being a comedian, okay, well, if that's a 10-year plan, then how do we, what do you need to do in 8 years or where do you need to be in 5 years? And then you kind of like walk it back. So it's more a doable, I guess, or there's a way to get to that goal. But I agree, like having a lot of things on the board and what does that mean to you and money and things like that. Like people always chase sometimes that kind of facade that doesn't bring them happiness or doesn't make them who they are, a better person in the end. They think it's what they want, but it's not really. So you have to even go deep into like, why is this on your board?
Yeah, I would think that if you would have to do one of those boards, and again, this is coming from someone who's never been to one of those parties, but like the first picture needs to be of you happy. Yeah. Because I feel like to get all of those things, whatever your vision is, you got to be at peace with yourself and be happy first, in my opinion, but I am not Dr. Pam and I'm not a comedian. Although I do think I'm funny, but it's right.
You are.
But that has to be the center picture,
Of course,
because that's where the manifestation comes from. Is if you it comes from within. So.
But I think people think these things equal happiness. Or these
absolutely.
Things
but that's when you're like, we got to circle back around and But anyway, again, that is my 2 cents on and never being to a
vision board.
We just do the wine and cheese parties.
Yep.
Yeah, we concentrate on the wine, the cheese, and the talking aspect of a vision board.
But I do I like your idea about, when you lost your career, every time that you would get fired or you would lose a job, like looking for something that you really wanted to do and that you valued versus just being like, oh, wow, throw in the towel. Life's over.
Right.
It's just, it's like a pivot moment, as Ashley would say, to go to something that you really are passionate about.
Yeah. And that was when I remembered that the 4 things I'd wanted to do when I was 11 years old. And I was visualizing even then and didn't even know it because I didn't know such a thing existed. But I used to imagine myself in a recording studio, being a DJ, writing my own books. When I was a kid, I wish I still had these. I used to write my own little books and draw my own little pictures and everything. I wish I still had those. All of these things wound up happening over time. And now that I'm doing them more intentionally, things happen faster and things happen deeper. And I'm more connected because now I know, and you said it in one of the most powerful words in the last conversation, knowing why you want what you want. An emotionally connected what can be the gas in your tank, the spark in your engine. It can keep little pebbles from becoming Jersey barriers. If you know your why, you're going to power walls like the Kool-Aid man to achieve what you want to do. Where if it's just something that's like, well, okay, I guess it's not going to happen. If you really want something to happen, like I really wanted to fall in love one more time in my life. That was 3 years of work. And I also love that you said the happiness and the most important stuff to go in the center of the board. That's where I start with every board. Even before I fell in love with my wife, Tina, I had pictures of happy couples in the center of the board. Holding hands on a beach. I'm a hopeless romantic. Holding hands on the beach.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. No, nothing. Tina, my wife Tina always says, she goes, you realize you're the chick in this relationship, right? We're through date.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I was like, at this table, there is nothing wrong with that statement. That is okay.
We're good with it.
And anyone used to laugh at me for that? Yeah, isn't laughing anymore. Now they're hiring me for coaching and advice. They're trying to create their relationship. No shame in my game whatsoever.
Nor should there be.
Yep, that's great.
You talked about when you were younger and thinking about, dreaming of being a radio DJ and such like that. And when we're young, we have a lot of goals, we're, a lot of different ideas of what we want to do when we grow up. And then all of a sudden you blink and you're grown up. And I'm curious of what, if you were motivating someone to, work towards their happiness, work towards their best self, the difference between what you would tell someone who is 18 versus 81, because I feel like when we get to middle age and beyond, you kind of feel like it's too late.
Yeah, you're stuck.
You all those hopes and dreams you had as a child are, it's too late. You're already there. So what would you tell someone like who've kind of felt like, hey, my life's half over, or whatever, more than half over, to keep them motivated?
I started asking them what their favorite conversations were they had in the past week. And if they say, well, I don't talk to too many people, I say, all right, well, when was the last time you went out and had a little fun? And if they're really, really stuck, I'll ask them, what did you want to be when you were younger? What did you want to do? What did you like to do the most? And it's funny because sometimes people go, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a veterinarian because I love animals. And I'll ask if they have any pets. No, I'm not allowed to have any pets. And then all of a sudden we start to strategize. Okay, can't have pets. You always wanted to be around animals. Is there an animal shelter or a rescue in your town? Yeah. Have you ever been there? Have you gone to volunteer? Have you signed up for maybe half an hour once a month to go walk some dogs or play with some cats to make their curb appeal a little better for people coming in looking to adopt? Could you make a donation? Could you be around there just even sweeping up or something? Immerse yourself somewhere in the environment that could even just spark the joy of something that used to make you very, very happy in your life. And I remember when I was very early on, somebody very close to me who is extremely intelligent, extremely hardworking. She earns every dime she makes, which she gets paid well now. She wanted to dump it all to go work with children with disabilities. And she couldn't because she could never find a place that would pay her anywhere near what she was making. So I suggested she volunteer one morning a month to go do activities with one of the organizations. And within 2 weeks, she went to a bowling hour with one of the local nonprofits. And she started volunteering there 2 times a month. And she absolutely loved it. She goes, I don't even mind working 60 hours a week just so I can get to Saturday morning when I get to go do that. So those are the conversations I have with people. You just kind of brush all the mud and the clouds away and get back to that original spark, that original glow in their heart. And you just find a different way. You mentioned the word pivot earlier. I always say, bounce it off the wall a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe find a way to put it back into your life somehow and tap back into that passion and that energy and that smile and that joy and that feeling of value and just being connected again to who you really wanted to be.
It's so simple when you think about it. Like it's just,
I think people think it's all or nothing.
I think people think everything has to be so complicated and you have to do so many different things when the answer really is quite simple. And it's most definitely inside you. You can figure it out if you just simplify everything
and just find your joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Nope.
It just volunteering at a place that makes you happy. Again, I think it goes back to then that's going to trickle through like your friend. Like it trickles through the rest of your life. You don't have to all of a sudden, I'm 40 and I'm now going to be a vet. But finding those little moments of joy and then doing those little moments of joy doesn't mean you have to do a complete 180 to change your life and make
maybe
things better.
40 hours of that a week, it wouldn't be your joy anymore. I mean, everybody's always heard the saying, don't make your hobby your job.
Right.
And I don't agree with that statement. But
I obviously don't either.
But we're very lucky, and we're in,
and that's true.
We're very lucky that we all get to do what we love. But I can imagine, people who are 40 hours a week doing a job that they don't particularly love, but can't afford to do it. And especially, I think people who are paid very well for a job they don't love, it's even harder.
Right. I mean, just like his friend.
So hard, but it is just finding, you don't have to do what you love 40 hours a week. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
At some point in the week.
But I wonder if there's a trend because when I used to teach a master's class, I had 2 attorneys that came into the class and they were in their 60s, but they were like, we aren't happy in our career. We want to go and pursue a new career. And then last week I did intern interviews, the people who are in the master's program who want to come and interview at my practice. And it was amazing. There were so many that had 2 and 3 previous careers, were kind of middle age, some of them younger, but it wasn't just these, kids who are right out of undergrad going to masters. It was really a lot of diversity and a lot of people who were kind of older and saying I did marketing before, I did, whatever I did before, I wasn't really happy. And I just saved up money to be able to go back to school and do what I want to do. So I don't think you're ever too old, but I like your point about volunteering, get involved with the things that you really value.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, look, we fall into those pits and we crash and burn sometimes. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. Sometimes it gets done to us, like the pandemic. I mean, we didn't see that coming. I think a lot of people looked around at their lives and thought, oh my gosh, is this it?
Yeah.
I had people reach out to me saying, Steve, I want to do something else. They say we're coming back to the office soon. I don't want to go back to that.
Right.
And it's people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even early 60s saying, I want more out of life than this. It doesn't mean I suggested a job. I would never do that. That would be reckless on my part. But we start talking hobbies and the passions and the interest and just bring life to themselves every day. Cheer themselves on in the mirror first thing in the morning. That's something I learned from Mel Robbins, a speaker who I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
5 beeps and my alarm goes off because Tina bought me a clock that doesn't have a snooze button. I say, I better get
Okay,
up.
well, that is not a nice gift. I'm just going to tell you that right now for my husband listening to this, because I start my snooze button at 5:45 in the morning and I come rolling out about 6:20.
Oh, no. I can't.
So I
Okay.
please, if Michael's listening, do not ever think about getting me a clock without a snooze button. So,
Exactly.
all right, carry on.
I'm off and on fire first thing in the morning, 5:05 a.m. Alarm off in 5. I count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Both feet are on the floor. I get up
Oh my
and I walk into the
gosh.
bathroom, turn on the light. I'm smiling and I'm high-fiving the mirror. I said, we're going to make a good day happen. And then I go rock my workout for 90 minutes to 2 hours and then start my day. All because I get up in the morning and I choose that I'm going to have a good day. And then I let the actions follow.
I do not know one Irish person who will be awake at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I just know that it takes me 35, 40 minutes to get my brain going.
No,
in the
Irish
right
people
direction.
are not like that.
That's the whole new thing that Huberman, the whole get up and get into the sun and then do your exercise.
I do think getting up and with a positive attitude, even if it's 30 minutes after your alarm goes off, I think that setting your intentions
It's important.
for the day really does matter. And I didn't realize that when I was younger. And I know that's kind of what your basis is. And it's so true. If you set your intentions to positive, I feel like throughout the day, you will attract positive. If you get up and unfortunately set your intentions to negative, you have a better chance of then attracting negative.
Or that's all you'll see all day. It's just the
Right.
negative
And
things.
I know it's a mindset and I know it's hard. I don't say it flippantly at all, but it is really true. When you set those intentions in the right direction, you can manifest more positivity or try to.
And it all comes down to what you're noticing. I mean, what you set for the intention is going to set your energy. It's going to set your filters, your ears, your eyes, your heart, your everything. Your brain is going to be aware of that.
It's the right attitude.
How I start every day after my workout, I'll go upstairs and I'll write in my gratitude journal. And my gratitude journal is my 3 favorite moments from the previous day. So I'm backloading and I'm writing them down to start today. It's almost like restoking a positive.
That's great. The one example you gave about the person you were talking to wanting to become a vet and then they couldn't be around animals because their apartment didn't allow pets. I think it's really easy to get one little roadblock and it's easier for us to just stop and say, well, I can't have pets, can't be around animals versus trying to come up with solutions. Well, I can't have animals in my house. But as you said, going to volunteer at an animal shelter. So what would you say would be the greatest thing we can do for our future self to kind of be motivated and move towards that positive direction?
If you think of it like an old wooden roller coaster, because so many people, when I say, imagine your best future self, they get overwhelmed and they just stop. And they go, well, I guess this isn't too bad. And I always say, look, think of it like an old wooden roller coaster. Your best self is at the top of that first hill. You might be at the parking lot level right now, and that's okay. But you know where you are. You know where you want to be. So think like an old wooden roller coaster. You got to go click, 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 click. Even if you start at the end and work backwards, well, if I have that, I must have done this, must have done this, must have met this person, must have learned this, must have listened to this podcast, read this book, connected with this group. Think of all the little steps you have to take. And when you think about it that way, it's not as overwhelming because you can't start halfway. You can't skip any steps. You have to sit there and do all the little steps. Now, here's the cool part about it. After a while, when you do the steps, you look over your shoulder and you realize you're actually getting closer and you're getting more excited and you're getting more confident. And when you're more confident in your daily actions, you can build momentum. When you build momentum and keep doing it consistently, you hardwire better habits. So you're not going to be that same person you were at the parking lot level. You're getting bolder, getting stronger. And the closer you get, when you get over the top and you do the last thing it took to get there, you look all the way back down and you say, I made it. And then you go over the top and you scream your brains out because it's a ride you can't stop. You just celebrate, scream, cry, whatever you want to do, grip for dear life. When you get to the end, if you really enjoyed that ride, it's the first thing you want to do. Get on again. When you've achieved a goal and when you're setting your next goal and you're back in line, I want you to look around and see anybody around you who also wants to set a goal, but looks really nervous, like it's their first time. Say, hey, I just had this amazing ride. Is this all new to you? Yeah. Why don't you come sit next to me? I want to tell you a couple stories on the way up. I'm going to show you how this works so you don't get scared and climb out and walk all the way back down the walk of shame. We all get to be coaches.
You're absolutely right. When you create that visual, then it can take root and we can all find little nuggets that are relevant to our life or our goals. You just have to, you got to imagine it and you got to put that visual in your mind.
I love the motivational firewood and I just love your outlook. I love the idea of not hitting the snooze and laying there thinking about that I don't want to get up, but instead jumping up and making it a great day. So yes, well, I do that, but I think that's great because the longer you lay there, the more you can think about how early it is and you don't want to get up. So you've been just a delight. We're so glad to have had you on here and we'll definitely include your information when we put out this podcast so our guests can get some of that motivational firewood too.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I've loved this. It went by so fast.
I mean, it flew by. No, but that's what positive talk does. Yes. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Steve. Have a great night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Nice to be around positive people for a change.
It really is. I mean, I think
Seriously.
just, I don't know, he makes you want to be happy and be positive.
Right.
And I think when you surround yourself with people like that, I think that just, you can't help but be positive.
It's not necessary. Like, you don't have to change the wheel. Like, you just, again, set your intentions. If you set it that you are going to be positive, then you will more than likely attract positive. Not all the time. It's not, but it's so true. If you wake up in the morning, and I know people have different circumstances and life, like I said, life is peaks and valleys. Like we've all had triumphs and trials, but when you can find kindness, you can find positivity, and even the littlest thing, like that little ice he said with the heart. Yeah. I mean, there's been days that, things have not gone great or whatever. And like, I'll see a cardinal and that's kind of like my spirit animal. And it makes me pause and be like, okay, Ashley, get it together. Yeah. Things are okay. Things are good. So just finding those little moments, I think.
Put in perspective too.
Yes, like it makes you stop and be like, wait, what are you doing?
Right. That's really important.
We can all go down the rabbit hole super fast. Yeah. Because I think that's what the world is more now geared towards is like, let's just all stay in the rabbit hole. Yeah. And so much better with the rainbows and the unicorns.
Yes.
And the leprechauns.
And the leprechauns.
I'm Cardinals. I'm like thinking, when you said that, I'm like, what's my spirit animal? Spirit animal. It's definitely a chimpanzee.
Really?
I just could.
Do say why.
They're hairy.
Okay.
Hairy.
They're smart.
Yeah, they're funny and they're cuddly.
They're cuddly and they're smart.
They have sense of humor. They do crazy things.
They hop on people. I hop on people.
Oh my gosh, Lisa's fans are going to be like, I'm sorry, what now?
Can we
Hold
clarify
on.
that? Can we clarify?
Oh my God, they'll be like, okay, Lisa's next masterclass. We want some of that.
Well,
Would
I
that be a
think
kangaroo?
to be hairy like a chimpanzee has turned them all off anyway.
I was like, when they're kangaroo, I hop on people. Let's talk about this, Lisa.
I think that's going to be the tagline.
I hop on people.
We'll get t-shirts.
Yeah. You're so regal with your
We love Lisa's spirit animal, a chimpanzee with hairy and likes to jump on you.
Yes.
And play with your feet and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, why am I starting to see OnlyFans?
Exactly. As a chimpanzee.
Yeah. Here she is.
Oh my gosh.
Well, cheers to our spirit animals.
Cheers to spirit animals, cardinal, and a chimpanzee.
Thank you for joining the ladies of the Middle AGEish podcast as they journey through the ups and downs of this not young, but definitely not old season of life. To hear past episodes or make suggestions for future episodes, visit www.middleageish.com. That's www.middleageish.com. You can follow along on social media at AGEish. Also, if you have a moment to leave a review, rate, and subscribe, that helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the AGEish podcast.